All right. Welcome, everyone, to Rhodes Wellness Podcast, where we have the opportunity of getting to know Dustin Hogan a little bit more, a graduate from starting in 2020 in his Professional Counselling Diploma Program at Rhodes Wellness College. This is Dustin Hogan. So, Dustin, take it away. Introduce yourself. Let everyone know who you are, what you're up to, what you do. And we'll go from there to chat about some very exciting things you've been up to recently in your practice.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. Super excited to connect with you. So my name is Dustin Hogan, based here in Calgary, Alberta. I run an online therapy practice as a men's mental health counselor. The name of my practice is Therapy for Dudes. And I have the opportunity and really the pleasure of getting to work with guys throughout Alberta on their mental health, their emotional health, focusing in on areas like anxiety and depression, confidence, communication, relationships. And I'm a huge advocate for this work, especially from a men's mental health standpoint. Loved my time attending Rhodes and very excited to be with you here today, man, and to just dig into all of this and have some awesome conversations.
Absolutely. I really look forward to the opportunity to get to know you a little bit more than I already do, and ask you some pretty interesting questions to help our listeners understand how you've gotten to the point in which you have, and how you might have just recently had the opportunity to have and speak as the sole speaker in a TEDx speaking engagement opportunity that is now live on YouTube. So I'm really curious, Dustin, what was that like for you? What did it feel like leading up to, and what was the training like to have a TEDx talk live for the rest of time? That's pretty amazing. So tell me more.
It was an incredible experience, and it's something that was almost 10 years in the making. I had the opportunity back in 2015 when I was living in Vancouver to work at a TEDx event, to support some of the speakers with some coaching, also providing some entertainment during the intermission, supporting those performers. So I've been thinking about TEDx and the TEDx stage for quite some time. And, back in, I think maybe 2018 or 2019, I had applied to speak at a TEDx event, didn't get that opportunity then. Fast forward to, the end of last year, the end of 2024 there, and was contacted by one of the organizers for TEDx Grandview Heights in Vancouver and asked what my idea worth spreading was, because that's the TED motto. And so pitched my idea from a men's mental health standpoint, and with a heck of a lot of gratitude, was accepted as one of the speakers. So started to prep the talk and put the talk together and rehearsing it and refining it. And the event was on January 10th of this year, 2025. The week before the event, went to Vancouver to rehearse with the other speakers, to practice, to really refine that talk. And then, January 10th, got to take the stage with some other amazing speakers. And what a day it was. My parents flew in, my sister flew in to Vancouver from Calgary. Lots of friends from Vancouver were there supporting. And it was exhilarating. There was equal parts excitement, equal parts nerves and anxiety, and was just so excited and proud of that moment. And then fast forward, just in the last month or so, the talk has hit YouTube, and exciting to see the momentum that it's building and the conversations that it's opening up. So yeah, something that I was really, really grateful to have the opportunity to do.
Wow. Incredible to hear. And that you were so brave and willing and open to really put yourself out there and say, this is what is worth saying to the world, that TEDx resonated with enough to say, here is the opportunity, and that they believe in you to conduct an awesome speech. Now, I'm really curious, let's get to the nitty gritty, the bottom line. That sounds great on paper, but how were you actually feeling in that time leading up to the speech, practicing and or doing that on stage? Like, what were your feelings and how did you kind of navigate that? Because to me, that would be like, a big opportunity and or big deal. What were your actual feelings, Dustin?
That's an awesome counseling question, a great coaching question as well. I mean, I was feeling everything from exhilaration and excitement to anxiety and pure fear and terror. I certainly put a lot of effort into rehearsing it. So that led to a lot of confidence in my abilities up there and knowing the talk. I've got a lot of stage experience over the years as a speaker and a trainer and a facilitator. So certainly had that background. However, it's a big stage. It's the world stage in the sense that it's going to go on YouTube, and who knows who's going to see it. So the days leading up, there was equal parts excitement and uncertainty. And then I remember the day of, finished my final rehearsals, and then I was the first speaker of the entire event as well, which was exciting and also terrifying as well of getting things started. But I just remember the hours, the minutes, the moments before my name was called, just getting into that zone and into that flow state and using a lot of the tools that I work with my clients on, of reframing that anxiety or that fear into really exhilaration. And if I wasn't nervous, it wouldn't mean anything to me. And so those nerves really allowed me to be focused in the moment, allowed me to really perform at a super high level. And then the talk itself, I certainly remember parts of it, but parts of it were a blur as well, of just standing on that stage, on that red carpet, bright lights, full auditorium. And I remember before I started speaking, I just paused. I sat in the silence for maybe 5 or 10 seconds, just taking in the space and in the audience and in my energy, and then started the talk. And yeah, super grateful for the whole experience. The organizers were amazing. They did such a great job of supporting all of us, coaching us, and just ensuring that everyone knocked it out of the park.
Wow, that's such an experience, and I really appreciate you really being raw about your emotions and being human in that you're not a robot. You couldn't have just like done it all and not felt from it, and that you were reframing your mindset going into it and practicing that reframing of like that narrative that like it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got this. And reassuring yourself that it's going to be okay, and you
Yeah.
got this, and you can do this, and you've trained for this for many months and or even years, and you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do this kind of a you manifested it. It's been a bucket list item for you by the sounds of things, and you did it, and I know you're proud of it, and it now has tens of thousands of views on YouTube. How can people find it on YouTube if they're looking for themselves?
So just search my name, Dustin Hogan. It'll pop up to the top. The title of the talk is The Silent Crisis of Men's Mental Health. So that will also bring it to the top of the list. But yeah, it's been cool to see the engagement of people commenting on it and liking it and sharing it, and just really keeping the conversation going and moving forward. That was my intention with it. So yeah, it's exciting.
Incredible. I think it's really served that purpose well already, in terms of what it's doing, and I think where it's going to go for the many, many years to come. Inspired me to send it to my dad and my
Hmm.
father-in-law and so on to, lovingly say, hey, this is a stigma still in 2025 with men, and putting emotions aside and not necessarily feeling them, and stuffing them under the rug. So I commend you for just being so willing and brave to kind of go out there in the brave and the cold, and speak to
Hmm.
this issue in the loving way that you did. So yeah, incredible work. Keep it up. It's awesome to see, and
Thanks,
I'm
dude.
sure you will.
I appreciate that. I didn't realize you'd sent it out, so that means a lot. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so very welcome. I think it's a very shareable video and word to get out there, because I think it can really help men or people in general even feel seen and heard, and what they're experiencing, what they don't even necessarily want to accept that they're experiencing, and so on. So yeah, super cool stuff. We're going to transition slightly to a question that a lot of viewers have. And that really is, we have viewers that are considering Rhodes Wellness College's programs in counseling, coaching, or helping others with their training. So, what common questions do you get from aspiring counselors, helpers, healers, and coaches that often ask you, said questions? And what are your answers? Do you mind sharing what's common?
For sure. No, that's a great question. And certainly, having the opportunity to speak at some of the Rhodes open houses and talking to prospective and aspiring, counselors and coaches through that, and then even people just find my site and reach out to me, certainly have had a number of questions. And I think one of the biggest ones that comes up is, will my life experience apply to this type of work in the counseling or in the coaching field? And I mean, as you know, we're not there to tell people what to do or to give them advice. Really, we're there to support and help people navigate their journey. But with that said, all of the experiences that we've had throughout our lives are very applicable when it comes to our work as a counselor and our work as a coach, because we've all overcome challenges to one degree or another. We've experienced failures and setbacks and success throughout our lives. And all of that life experience, to me, sets us up to be better counselors, better coaches. It allows us to empathize with our clients. It allows us to understand our clients at a very, very deep level. And to me, when I realized that and in recognizing that areas from my life could actually be supportive to others, in that my experience would apply, or just the knowledge, like I said, the empathy, to me, that's one of the big questions that I'm often asked. And I know for me, when I had that realization that the experiences I've had in life will apply to this work, it was a confidence booster and just allows us, I think, to do our work at a much, much deeper level. So that's probably one of the biggest questions that gets asked to me when people do reach out.
Wow. That makes sense because, no matter your age, in a sense, it doesn't matter how, say, old you are or experienced in life you are. I think to actually do this work, it's not necessary for you to have had to go through a tons of trauma or depression or anxiety or insomnia necessarily to still hold space for others, to provide empathy or sympathy and help them feel seen and heard in the experience in which they're having, to help them on their journey forward in a lighter way, per se. So I appreciate you sharing that, because yes, you can pull from your personal experiences, but in a sense, what you're saying is no one's perfectly and or forever will be perfectly ready to become a counselor, a coach, a helper. It's just the way things are. So is what I'm hearing maybe is there's no perfect time. There's just a matter of getting started and leaning into it to help
100%.
you learn and grow, right?
100%. I mean, that was my experience. I had looked at Rhodes for a couple of years before I decided to make the choice and go to the school. And, I had all of the self-doubts that I'm sure many of the listeners are having right now, or have had, of, can I do this? At this stage in life, should I be making this choice to go back to school? Am I going to find success? Are people even going to want to work with me? All of these, critical stories that I often tell myself were very, very present. And I mean, they still are to a degree, even with certain successes leading up to the TEDx talk, of the pressure that I was putting on myself. And even with my practice, even though I'm very happy with where it's at, those thoughts of self-doubt and a critical voice can often pop in. And I'm sure others are resonating with that as well. But I like what you said, is you just got to get started and lean in, and the path will unfold as we're willing to take those steps. As cliche as it is, the next step is shown to us by taking the step that we're taking right now.
Absolutely, loud and clear, heard. And, as an admission specialist with Rhodes Wellness College myself, and as a coach and counselor outside of this, so many times I speak with incoming or potential students, and there is that self-doubt, there's that uncertainty, there's that, is this right for me? And all those things. And it's totally fair and understandable, as this is a big decision. But on the other side of things, you might live to 100 years old, you're 30 years old, let's say, and this is a year and a half or so commitment to learn and grow. And you can take that into wherever you want to go in the area of wellness and helping others. And if
Yeah.
that feeds, your soul, and that helps you help out this, out of that side of yourself that wants to help therapeutically, great.
Yeah.
And you can go in a number of different, directions with that if it's something you've always maybe wanted to do. And having faith and trust kind of in that process, and try not to worry too much about the future at the same time, I think is really tough. But just staying present sounds, cliche, but staying present and in the moment and kind of going with the flow is kind of key to see where it leads you. And I think it's important as well to not pigeonhole yourself originally that you're going to be a counselor in an office and see clients from 9 to 5 and that be your life.
Mm-hmm.
To keep yourself, open to all of the opportunities that might come that you could network yourself into and so on. So, exciting stuff.
Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah, thank you. My kind of next question for you is, are there any things that you really did that really led to your success today in your practice in terms of previous business or work experience, or just things that you would highlight that you did to lead you to where you are today with a thriving practice? Anything coming to mind when I ask you such a question?
Definitely. And I mean, I've had a very interesting career trajectory over the last, call it 15 or 20 years. Originally, I went to school for hotel restaurant management here in Calgary, and had big visions of owning a hotel or owning a restaurant, something like that. And ended up working in the hotel business here in the city for a couple of years and enjoyed it, had fun, but wasn't super passionate about it. And transitioned out of the hotel business, and of all things, decided to start a landscaping company called the Grass Guy. And this was it was kind of my baby at the time, building that company up, and did fairly well with it. I mean, that was in my early 20s, and was able to grow it up to a certain degree. But once again, I wasn't passionate about it. And at the time when I had the landscaping business on the side, evenings, weekends, I was a DJ here in the city. So playing clubs and festivals and that kind of thing. And that's really where my passion was. And I remember there was a day when I woke up, or actually I was on my way to a business meeting to potentially expand my landscaping business, and had to pull over because I was actually in tears, realizing I'm not passionate about this business, and what could my life look like if I was actually pursuing something that I was passionate about. And at the time it was the music and the DJing. So decided to sell the landscaping business, packed up my life here in Calgary, moved to Vancouver to go to audio engineering school. Now this is 2011-ish, and pursued my passion in music and DJing. And then that led me to actually teaching at a really cool school in Vancouver called Brain Boost Education. And they had a DJing and an electronic music production program there that I got to work as part of, and teaching kids about music and DJing and music production. But really, that was my first step into coaching and counseling without even realizing it. Because yes, I was supporting the kids with music and DJing and teaching them about that. But really, it was about life skills and how to be organized and how to have goals and how to have a vision. And without even realizing it, I was already starting to, get excited about coaching and counseling. So now fast forward a few more years, transitioned out of that role, and then started a coaching business in Vancouver, a speaking business in Vancouver, taking, my love for music and personal development and bringing it all together. And then fast forward a few more years to 2018, 2019, realized I wanted to go even deeper, bring in the mental health side of things. So that's when I made the decision, January 2020, to start at Rhodes on the counseling side. So the last 15, 20 years have been seemingly disconnected from a career standpoint, from hotels to landscaping to music to teaching to coaching. But if I now connect the dots looking backward, the same way that Steve Jobs famously said, we connect the dots looking backward, not forward. All of these seemingly different career, business, work experiences now all tie together. and have come together in my practice from a counseling and a coaching standpoint. So pulling a bit of everything from all of the different things that I've done, from the customer service with the hotel business, running a small business with my landscaping, connecting with people through DJing and the teaching and coaching aspect, all of that, which seemed to disconnect, now in my practice, all has come together in such a beautiful way. So I am so, so grateful for all of those different experiences, and back to our point earlier, how they all tie together in the work that I'm doing now and allowing me to grow things to the point that they're at. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, man. But it's been a wild ride getting to this point.
Wow. It certainly does answer my question. And for me, I think it really shows your bravery, your attempts, and that it's important to, if I may, I imagine, you've made mistakes and failed along the way. Is that right?
Yes, I do on a daily basis. Yeah.
And with those failures comes so much learning, an opportunity for learning and self-acceptance in teaching you how to conduct yourself in a better, more authentic way within business, your clients, who you work with, and how you show up and manage your time and your space to enable you to do your work and do it as well as you can, knowing that you're not always going to be perfect, or you're not ever perfect, and there's always room for improvement is what I'm hearing, and just skin in the game, is showing you that.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, that's what it's really all about, is learning through the failures. And, sitting here right now having this conversation, it's easier to talk about those things. But at the time when something doesn't go according to plan, and I'll only speak for myself, I'm like, it's hard. It's really hard when things don't go according to plan. However, trusting and having that faith, like you said earlier, that things are going to work out, it's something I've worked really hard to try and focus in on and make that a key part of who I am and my identity and my mindset and the way that I look at things. Easier said than done sometimes when stuff just seems to be imploding. However, coming out of successes or failures or setbacks, however we want to describe it, to me, there's always learning to be had there. And, there's a little sticky note that I have up here in my office, and it says, you were not rejected, you were redirected. And to me, that's the ultimate reframe, is those moments when there's a failure, or I feel like there was a rejection with a client or something not working out. It's actually redirecting me towards something that's a better fit. So having to remind myself of that on a daily basis has been so important.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable and real about the process, and that it's it could look great on your website or on paper, but on the inside, you've gone through so much to get you to the point in which you're at now, and how you now plan to move forward. And we'll come back to where you're moving forward into near the end of the recording here. But I wanted to touch on something that I think holds really true to me, in that you kind of sometimes have to let, I don't know how religious you are, but kind of God take the wheel of, like, there's going to be opportunities that you're not going to like, but the learning that you take out of it is so key for your journey forward. That may be the best journey for you forward to learn and grow in the best way. And that you have to not grip the wheel so hard to have it go your way. And you're going to have to find, or the car is going to have to find, in this metaphor, its own way to teach you what you need to learn, because there's no way of you avoiding this learning moment or opportunity. And some very spiritual people say that's going to keep coming up until you learn what you need to learn to have more learnings to move on. And, consider this a rant, I guess, but I've often heard this idea that, when the student is ready, the teaching will appear. So you have to be willing and ready to learn and grow to the extent in which allows you to be ready to learn and grow into the next teaching. So it's a really interesting thing that I think applies to personal life and professional life.
Yeah.
In how those are so, or can be so, intertwined. if we make them. So anyway, some deep thoughts for you.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I even just think of my path leading up to Rhodes. It's was looking at it, and then finally life created the space and almost forced the decision in the most positive way possible. And yeah, I mean, it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made, both obviously professionally, but personally as well.
And that's the thing that, seeing hundreds of graduates come from the start of the program through and after, they talk about is that personal development that happens. And then also how that translates into professional development and confidence and competence in the field, working with a client, helping them feel seen and heard with what's coming up for them. Because in the program, you have over 1,700 hours of live instruction in class, speaking about topics that relate to maybe what your client's coming up with, like depression or anxiety or significant grief and loss or trauma, and that you are prepared to hold that space, and you actually learn how to prevent transference from happening. And for those who that don't know, that might be listening, transference is often when the counselor starts crying because the client's crying about maybe a recent passing, where that may be transference. So we're working to prevent that so you can show up professionally, in those client sessions. So it's quite exciting stuff. And I guess coming back to the curiosity point, right now in your practice, what are you working on for, say, the next 6 months or a year that you're open to letting the audience in on, and what can they expect from you? Anything in the works?
Yeah, and it's an interesting question to ask right now, actually, because I'm in the thick of actually building out my first online program for men and focused in on men's mental health, called Mind Strong. And it's something that I've been working on behind the scenes for well over a year now. I brought on some really incredible consultants and team members to help in supporting that. And this is going to be just a real deep dive into everything men's mental health, men's emotional health, based on all of the work that I've done with clients from both a counseling and a coaching standpoint, covering everything from limiting beliefs and mindset to emotions, communication, relationship, habits, goals, vision, purpose. So many, many big pillars. And I actually what's today? Yeah, today's Tuesday. I just finished the recording for the content on Sunday, actually. So the team is now editing it and putting it together. And we're probably going to go live and launch that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I suspect. So it's been a real labor of love. And, it'll give me the opportunity to connect with men, not just here in Alberta and even Canada, but really globally. And although the course and the program will have therapeutic benefits, it's not a therapy course. It's very much a personal development, personal growth, coaching course, which will allow me to share it with men across the planet. And there will be, self-paced videos, exercises, tools, strategies, a community aspect to it as well. So I am so pumped. I've put so many hours into it and just excited to put it out there. And it's the next stage of growth for my practice, for my business, and for me as a professional as well, as I've never, gone down this path before with a course. So super, super excited.
My gosh, that sounds amazing. I I would love to be, learning from it in some capacity, because I think you and I both share such a passion and interest for just self-development in general, getting down to the nitty-gritty of our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and our behaviors in life, why we show up in the way that we do, and how we can improve upon ourselves with that level of self-acceptance and understanding that, it's strong to want to learn and grow. It's not weak to go into this. It's important to step into that for ourselves, especially as men, that may have struggled with, ideas of toxic masculinity or be tough, around the edges, don't talk about our emotions, those kinds of things. And to kind of have a, runway of like, where to go and how to, address certain sides of the human experience, the man's experience,
Mhm.
and so on, and how, we can show up better for ourselves, but also I would imagine for significant others or family, friends, and that kind of thing as well, and how that ripple effect ripples out to other people that you get to start and create and be a part of in a way that's humble,
Mm.
and that you can see clients one-on-one to help them with that as well.
Yeah, I mean that ripple effect, man. I mean that's what gets me out of bed in the morning is I love working with clients, but then thinking about them going out and being the best version of themselves, being better men for, their partners, their families, their friends, their colleagues. To me, that's what really spreads that ripple of positivity, like you say. And so yes, doing that in the one-on-one work that I'm doing, and then hoping that this course, the intention is that we'll continue to do that at an even bigger level. And then even something like the TEDx talk, never knowing who's going to hear that or when they need to hear that. So yeah, super grateful of all of these things right now.
Absolutely. As you should be. You're, let's say, 5 years out of the program, and this is only 5 years from start. And you could have 25, 30 more, 50 more years, in the field. So it'll be exciting to look back at this. But what I hear is this course of yours, maybe, this spring or so, 2025, into summer as a launch that is therefore accessible by anyone. Is that right?
Definitely, yeah, and it'll be available on my website once it goes live. So, yeah, super excited, man.
Super. I'm stoked for you. That's for sure. I guess on that note, how can people reach out to you in the event that they are interested in speaking with you, potentially as their counselor, and so on? How can people reach you?
For sure. So the easiest way is on my website, therapyfordudes.com. There's opportunities to book on there. There's really in-depth blog section as well. Learn a little bit more about me. So therapyfordudes.com is the place to go. Or on Instagram, I've got 2 accounts on there. I am Dustin Hogan is one, or Therapy for Dudes as well. So feel free to reach out, connect with me on there, LinkedIn as well. Always love hearing from people, talking to people, connecting, and supporting in any way that I can. And perhaps that means working with me, but perhaps that means me recommending others like Jameson or other people that are in my network that are awesome people that I like to refer out to. So yeah, reach out to me at any time. Love to connect.
Incredible to hear, and that's super. And I should also mention, which is really important to us here at Rhodes Wellness College, is actually a Rhodes Counseling Center. In the event that you're looking for counseling in more of a pro bono oriented way, online for anyone across Canada, Rhodes Counseling Center is also available in the event that you're seeking any type of counseling and or even coaching services. Our intake specialists can meet with you, and that can be seen on our website at rhodescollege.ca under resources, and then to the counseling center. And then we're there to help you, of course, along with Dustin and many of our other graduates. There's also a graduate or alumni a booking page or search page on our website under resources, where you can actually see all of our graduates, the services they offer, and how you can contact them in the event that you want to reach out to them, even talking to them about the program at all and what their experience was like, and where you can speak to our admissions team in a number of capacities as well, or even me directly. And my email is jameson@rhodescollege.ca. So you can reach out to me there as well if need be. And we'd be more than happy to support you in your consideration of our programs, whether it's coaching, counseling, nutrition, some very exciting other programs that are being worked on behind the scenes that are coming soon to be available to anyone really around the world or in Canada, because a lot of our programs here at Rhodes are offered online through Zoom in a very interactive, hands-on, and practical way in which they're actually provided to you, and that helps you learn and grow to become the helper you want to become. So lots of exciting stuff. And any last words, Dustin, before we close up and rock and roll into episode 2 with maybe a new guest that some might know of?
Thanks for having me. I mean, I've got such love and respect for Rhodes and everything that it's done for me, as far as, the people that I've got to meet, like you and other friends, the staff and the leadership that runs it, the instructors. It's like I said earlier, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made, for both personally and professionally. So super grateful to be on here today. And yeah, for those listening, would love to connect with you. So feel free to reach out. Always happy to support in any way that I can.
Oh, awesome stuff, Dustin. Thank you so much for sharing and being such a awesome guest, and the first official Rhodes Wellness Podcast episode of recording, and hopefully to many more. We do expect at least a monthly posting. Here, this one should come out sometime in April 2025, and then ongoing monthly as we move forward. So looking forward to it. If you haven't already, if you could subscribe to the podcast, that'd be great. You're welcome to review it if you'd like, and you're welcome to check out any of our websites affiliated with me, which is fullwelljameson.com, Dustin's website and information as mentioned, or of course, rhodescollege.ca for a lot more information about Rhodes and what it offers and the programs and what they can potentially look and feel like for you. So thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day and be well.